Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation and possibly most popular too. The country of over 170 million people is naturally blessed with abundant resource, including oil. It's one of the world's leading producers of oil. But in spite of having all this wealth, the people live in poverty, with up to 80% of the nation's people living under $1 a day. The country is bedeviled with corruption, death, and global embarrassment. And it's a problem of the country's leadership. And the people of the country desperately are crying out for help. Earlier last year, there was a big scandal because the corruption in the country is very, very serious. We have billions of dollars being looted by the cabal and the top leadership of the country. This report topped the news earlier on last year, where billions of dollars were discovered missing, between 20 and 50 billion, for just a period of 16 months that were examined out of over 5 years of the current regime. And this has never been addressed till date, these billions of dollars. And as we can see here, it was all over the news that the whistleblower was fired for that discovery. Now, where we are right now is tragic. It's horrific atrocities are being perpetrated in the state. This massacre, the Baga massacre, was monumental, and it garnered very little global attention. We had over 2,500 to 3,000 people killed within the span of just 4 days in January of this year. This is the president of the country, Goodluck Jonathan. He has failed to be able to wage any meaningful or sensible war against Boko Haram terrorists who are massacring people in the majorly Muslim northeastern part of the country. The sad thing about it is, when this massacre took place, he failed to comment on it, and that is similar to an episode that happened earlier on last year, April of last year. The world held this campaign, the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, because over 270 girls were abducted from a school in a predominantly Christian town in Chibok. And when these girls were abducted, the Nigerian presidency refused to comment on it for 3 weeks, till you had all these activists. All of us were shouting about it, and we created the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls and kept pushing this forward for global attention, before the Nigerian government, finally ever discussed it 3 weeks later. And these were the headlines at that point. Nigerian government first tried to push it away by actually claiming that they had freed all but 8 of the abducted girls. Now, this is a crime against conscience. It's unbelievable, but this is the situation that Nigerians face, where their government denies and further jeopardizes the lives of the girls. So they kept trying to deny this thing had happened, trying to wish it away, but we kept the pressure up. The good people of Nigeria kept the pressure up. And then finally, the government admitted that the girls were abducted. So the same thing keeps on happening in the country, because its leadership is really, really callous. You have in Bloomberg just this January, where the over 2 to 3,000 people were massacred in Baga, a predominantly Muslim village in the northeast. The president just acted like it didn't happen, and he promptly condemned the killing of 17 people in France. But for 2 weeks, he just didn't even say a word about it. And even though we had satellite imagery and everything proving that, up to, you could see the level of damage, that, over 3,700 houses were destroyed in that area, and, over 50 to 100,000 people were displaced. And, it's a monumental and, out of proportion level of suffering and hardship. And Nigeria's president just acts like, it's nothing, because he can't handle it, and he won't step down, and he doesn't get impeached, and he stays there, under this democratic laws that are crippling the people. So yeah, this article in Bloomberg shows, the outrage that, he refused to condemn it. And you know people shouted about this, that, why wouldn't he even address massacres going on under his government, where his army fails to act appropriately. And also Nigerians, of course, were accusing, international media for not bringing attention to this Holocaust proportion massacre in the Northeast, with 2,500 people just, killed, farmers, fishermen. And the world responded. They said, why won't we ignore you? You should blame your leadership. And it's the God honest truth. Nigeria's leadership is where the problem is, because when our leadership, who we put there one way or the other, fails to even talk about it, then why would we blame the outside world? Because it's our responsibility to get rid of him. So honestly, it's just the truth. Here it is again in Washington Post, says the same thing. Stop being angry at Western media for ignoring Boko Haram. And in fact, there's an important part of this article that says that the author is not trying to absolve journalists in the West from reporting on the problems, but that said, his anger isn't with ABC or CNN. His frustration, let me see whether it's a he or a her. Sorry, Karen. Her. Her anger isn't with, CNN or ABC. Her frustration is directed squarely at Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We should all be infinitely more incensed by Nigeria's leadership's lack of political will to come up with a comprehensive solution to Boko Haram's murderous assault on Nigerian citizens than about whether a major US network has temporarily helicoptered its crew into the country. So this is the problem. The problem is with the leadership. And the same thing, the article goes, and the Washington Post goes on to talk about, the same things happening with Bring Back Our Girls and stuff like that. Now, complicating an already deadly situation, the Nigerian leadership continues to campaign and continues to do everything towards securing a second term. Now, this president of Nigeria, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, that's him right here, he has been in power for about 5 years. And more than anything, he's more interested in trying to retain power in spite of hundreds of thousands of Nigerians dying and millions living in bondage. His only focus is maintaining power. So think about this. He refused to condemn or comment or bring world attention and assistance needed when over 3,000 people were massacred this January. But now, 2 weeks later, because he wants to campaign in Maiduguri, which is the capital of Borno, where these events have taken place, the Chibok abduction and the Baga massacre, because he wants to campaign there, he now went to visit the place. 2 weeks after the massacre that he failed to condemn, he now went to visit, because he's campaigning there today, Saturday. He's there right now. So because he wanted to go there, he hasn't visited there since the abduction. He didn't visit or say anything after the massacre. There have been so many massacres in schools all over the place. He never visited the state once. But ahead of his campaign this week, he went there last week to go and say hi so that he'll warm up. It's insensible. It's unconscionable, the kind of stuff that we go through in Nigeria. And while this is happening, rather than focusing on the massacre in Baga and all the terror and the corruption and the crime, he fixates himself, and his campaign committee fixates themselves on the opposition candidate. And then they created this slur campaign, claiming that the opposition candidate, who has diplomas from United States War College and all over the place, and is retired veteran general of the Nigerian army, they insulted and degraded the Nigerian army completely. And the Nigerian army right now needs as much help as it can get, because it's failing totally. It used to be one of the best armies in Africa. It led forces that liberated Liberia and other places in crisis. It took charge, but now the army is helpless because of this intricately, legendarily corrupt leadership. And that army that needs help, he now went on this thing, the chief opposition candidate is a guy called General Buhari. And they went on this whole campaign for the last 3 weeks, rather than focusing on the massacres, trying to tarnish his reputation and claiming he didn't have a college certificate. And that got disproven because, the certificate came out, original copies came out all over the news. And while Nigeria's deserved an apology for this, the Nigerian leadership went on. They went on to say it's forged and stuff like that. Like, it's so ridiculous. Nigeria is being so embarrassed and humiliated globally, it will almost be impossible to restore our respect. It's a critical situation right now. Cambridge had to come out and say, that due to all the questions they were getting, they had to come out and confirm that, people were asking whether, there was a problem with the opposition candidate's result, whether this Hausa language was not taken at the time. And Cambridge had to say, we do give those evaluations. And of course, if the result that was released was not authentic, Cambridge would have said there's a forgery out there, and they would have sued the school and stuff. And if the Nigerian government actually wanted to bring out the results, another copy for them to verify, rather than using this as mudslinging and libelous campaigns against the opposition, and if they didn't really want to waste Nigerians' time, their Ministry of Education would send a message, fax to Cambridge, and Cambridge would automatically release the result to them. But this is all an insult, and they kind of dance on Nigeria's graves. This is the president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, and he does need prayers. And he dances on Nigerians' graves and believes that, the billions of dollars amassed can buy him an electoral victory. And perhaps it may, because the people are so hungry. The main problem is he's meant to have been impeached. He's meant to have been taken to the International Criminal Court. Global media is meant to have been sanctioning him and his friends, the cabal, who everybody knows loots billions of dollars. There's so many reports of billions of dollars, that's United States dollars, that these people loot. We are talking of 20 billion, 40 billion. They loot more than 2/3 of the nation's economic earnings. And because of this stuff, the world should have gotten this guy out of there. He should not even be allowed to contest, because as Nigeria leads towards this election, he's just going to promote violence and disarray and more economic and social frustration and harassment and terror, frank terror on the people. And it's a really, really precarious situation in Nigeria that deserves any kind of global support that whoever can afford, can accord to the nation. And now we have it in the news that Niger Delta militants met in Bayelsa, Yenagoa, and are threatening war when the president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, loses the February 14th presidential elections. By all indices, he is definitely going to lose this election. And these people, who include government ministers, this is Kingsley Kuku, a minister, Seriake Dixon, the governor of Bayelsa, which is Goodluck Jonathan's home state, and then you have other known terrorists, including Asari Dokubo, Tompolo, Boylov. Some of these people did not accept a presidential amnesty and are guilty of terrorism against the state. They are unrepentant terrorists, and these people are openly and publicly threatening war. This is Asari Dokubo. He has openly threatened the state of Nigeria, and Nigeria's president does nothing about it. This fellow here is Tompolo. Tompolo imported over 7 gun-armed warships into Nigeria. These things are happening. We Nigerians need the help of the international community, because we are under siege. These people are threatening war to the state of Nigeria. And the president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, has told people in the past that they should throw stones at government officials. He told this guy, Governor Dixon, that he himself would throw stones at people in campaigns. Nigeria needs urgent help. Dokubo in the statement said, "We are going to war. Every one of you should go and fortify yourselves. The global community is watching. Nigerians are urgently and desperately asking for help. This is Dr. Peregrino Brima for Ends Every Nigerian Do Something.